Welcome to tonight's Silicon Wafers episode, and as you can see, I'm recording it out and about, so please do forgive any background noise and possibly interruptions. Tonight, Washington has done something that every Kremlin propagandist and every European far-right influencer could only dream of. The White House has released a new national security strategy of the United States of America, the big legally mandated blueprint that says, here is how America sees the world, here is who we stand with, and here is who we stand against. And I have to say, it's not good news for Europe. In black and white, it tells Europe this: you are weak, you are decadent, and you are on the brink of civilisational erasure. And the United States will now cultivate resistance inside your societies to change your trajectory. This is the implication. A certain interpretation of the document is that it sees the rules-based order in Europe, as exemplified by the European Commission, as being antithetical to US interests and to its foreign policy. In other words, a declaration of war against the legal and bureaucratic structures of the European Union. This is not just another Trump rant on social media. This is doctrine, signed, sealed, and uploaded to the White House website. Well, here is a quick reaction episode, but this is such an important topic that we will split the analysis over 2 episodes which ask these 3 blunt questions. What does this new national security strategy say, especially about Europe? 2, has radical MAGA culture war and extreme libertarian thinking just been baked into official US grand strategy, with the EU cast as the main problem, cast even as an enemy? And 3, how much of this language echoes the Kremlin's own propaganda about a dying Europe? So what just dropped in Washington? Every US administration is supposed to publish a national security strategy, the NSS, laying out its view of threats, allies, and priorities. This is the first NSS of Trump's second term, released on the 4th to the 5th of December 2025. And as AP notes, it is a stark break from Biden's strategy, which tried to rebuild alliances and check a more assertive Russia. That's from Boston 25 News. Instead, this document is pure, distilled America first, motivated above all by what works for America, or in 2 words, America first. On Russia and Ukraine, it says the US has a vital interest in brokering a quick end to the war, not for justice, not for Ukrainian victory, but to re-establish strategic stability with Russia. That's from the Kiev Independent. On the Western Hemisphere, it announces a Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, a hard-edged assertion of dominance in Latin America and the Caribbean, including targeted deployments and possible military action in Venezuela, again from Boston 25 News. But the most explosive section is about Europe, because here the traditional language of shared values and indivisible security is replaced with something else, an open ideological attack on the European Union, on European governments, on their mode of governance itself, and on the social, legal, and democratic models that they choose. Europe as the problem, not the partner. In the regional chapter under Central Europe, the document starts with a familiar reassurance. Europe is still strategically and culturally vital. The US wants a strong Europe to help prevent any adversary from dominating the continent, etc., etc. Then the mask comes off. The NSS says Europe's economic stagnation is eclipsed by the real and starker prospect of civilisational erasure. That's from Reuters. It blames activities of the EU that undermine political liberty and sovereignty, migration policies that are transforming the continent, censorship of free speech and suppression of political opposition, cratering birth rates and loss of national identities. That's all from, or requoted in, The Guardian. This isn't a Europe or even a Britain, actually, that I recognise from the reality. It says also that if present trends continue, It warns that the continent will be unrecognizable in 20 years or less, and that it is far from obvious that some European countries will have economies and militaries strong enough to remain reliable allies, again reported by Reuters. The EU is described as part of a machine that is supposedly dissolving European nations and erasing their identity. Migration is cast as a civilisational threat. Efforts to regulate disinformation and hate speech are rebranded as censorship and suppression of opposition. The NSS says that US policy for Europe should prioritise cultivating resistance to Europe's current trajectory within European nations. That's according to The Guardian. Well, I'm going to wrap this short take episode up, and we'll go into this in more detail, no doubt, and we'll do some live streams on it. But this document sounds very much like a call to arms for blatant interference in European politics in favour of the far right and anti-immigration forces. It is a dangerous and worrying statement of malign intent by this US administration.